Hello, my soul brothers and soul sisters. I am Ron Smith, and this is the Dr. Ron Smith Investigating Show, where we separate the real from fake, the fact from fiction, and give you the winner's edge. And sometimes we will turn your water into wine. Today, we're talking the talk, and this time is very interesting. We're talking about how do you talk about your parents' finances? And one of the things that my quote of the day is, let's be smart about it, which means basically, as I said in previous episodes, you have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And one of the things that I have graduated to that position of being over 50, which means that I have children, adult children now, and grandchildren, as well as parents. And specifically, one of the things that is so sensitive to talk to your parents about is that basically they were your first teachers. They changed your diapers, read to you, taught you how to cook, how to ride a bike, et cetera, et cetera. So, in actually talking to your parents, it's kind of can be very challenging and somewhat intimidating. So the most thing that I can recommend that you have to be mindful and you have to be respectful. Let's get into the conversation. One of the things I know for sure, you just can't jump into the conversation because you have to have the perfect time. But I want to first of all give you some conversation starters. One thing that you can ask, what one of the things that you did with money that you are the most proud of? And that would be the kind of icebreaker to get your parents to talk, your mother, your father. And I know the conversation will be different when you talk to your mother or when you talk to your father. And it all depends who actually wrote the checks, who controlled the checkbook. Because I know oftentimes that even though your father may have been the breadwinner, your mother actually paid the bills and wrote the checks. So that might be one of the dynamics that you might want to, be a caveat when you ask each one of them. The second one is that what would you do differently that what you did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago? What would you do differently if you had the choice? And one of the things that, I like to throw a curveball in there. What were some of the things that you took a risk on and how did that pay off? And one of the things that I know for sure in my household, the conversation about money never really came up as a teaching moment. It came up with, I had to buy this. That's the reason why we couldn't get that. Or we had to pay this bill. That's the reason why we couldn't do that. So it was nothing about how we earn money and how we save or how we invested. So it wasn't never that particular conversation. But that is a conversation that maybe you have had in your household while you were growing up. So one of the things that I would ask, and this is one of those open-end questions. What would you wish for me in my finance? And I found that would be so profound and so, I guess, opening. But before you talk to your parents about money, one of the things you need to talk to your siblings. Each family member has a member that is closer to the parent. And, I was the youngest of six in my family. Therefore, of course, they called me the baby. And of course, which included that the baby get away with everything. And basically, since I was the youngest, I got picked on a lot until I got bigger and taller than everyone. And then, that bullying stopped. But you need to talk among your siblings about what is the best approach and who is the best person to approach an aging parent. I'm talking about a parent too who's in their you know 80s and 90s, because those are the ones that are in that critical stage where fraud, waste, and abuse, and them getting not up on top of technology. There are things that they probably fall prey to. So uh, if you're not in living in the neighborhood with your parents, is always keep a check on them. But there is one of the siblings that is closer to the parent that basically that the parent listened to more than the other. Uh, and the thing about it is, if you are not it, that means that somebody else is the person that need to be talking to the parent. But first of all, they're not going to listen to you if you don't have your financial house in order. So first thing is get your financial house in order, and they will probably more listen to you because they can basically trust you. Now, if you're still going to the bank of dad or the bank of mom asking them for money, then you're probably not the right person to talk to your parents about their money and what they're going to do for the financial future. Then you need to talk the right time to talk to a parent. When if your dad like football game, that's not a good time to talk. If your mother like HGTV or the soap operas, that's not a good time to talk. So it's picking choosing the right time to talk to your parents about money. You have to be, smart about it. Remember, got to be smart about it. Then you have the plan to start the conversation. A few minutes ago, I gave you some kind of icebreakers that you could use to begin the conversation. And you can start by doing some of the things that you're doing maybe for your children. Whether it's uh, how you are budgeting for their education, how you budgeting for your retirement plan. Having those things in order. The main thing is being respectful and being calm, because believe it or not, money is a very emotional type conversation. Um, some people still have, trauma about money anxiety, and the and if you're talking about someone's nest egg, and due to inflation, and we all are being affected by inflation, is that their savings probably being eroded as we, having this conversation. So they are probably very anxious about this conversation in the beginning with, and if they hadn't properly prepared for their advanced age, besides having a social security or having a pension, then they are very getting nervous about just listen to the social media and listen to the news about what's going on in today's uh, society, especially the economy. And if you cannot find a person within the family realm, you might have to go outside and get a third party. That could be, a financial planner or a person who have fiduciary experience to talk to them about their estate planning. But the main thing that I want to have you to do is the information has to be gathered. And here's the, the basics of estate. Use a handwritten will, And if you do your own will, you got to make sure it's notarized, which means they basically have a, uh, a person that either at your bank or at your library or someone you know that is a notary that is notarized. One of the things that I brought up on an episode, I think two episodes ago, Aretha Franklin had two wills, one that she did in 2010 and one that she did in 2014. And she made some corrections on it, and she did not put it in the safety deposit box. She put it, they actually found it under one of the pillows of the sofa. And it took them 2 years through the inventorying the property to actually find it. So one of the things that you have to do in the estate plan is make sure who are the beneficiaries. And if the person is in declining health, do they need a trusted contact? And the trusted contact is really a person that is assigned to, let's say they have a financial institution where they have stocks and bonds. The trusted contact person, if there is some irregularities with their financial situation, and they cannot contact the primary person, the trusted contact is a person they would contact and say, hey, we got some irregularities. There may be some major withdrawals from the financial account, and they can't contact your parents. Now, the next person is giving somebody the power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney is actually a person who can make the financial decisions, and if there is a medical power of attorney, the person can actually talk to the doctor if the person is incapacitated and cannot make those decisions on their own. Next, you need to understand what your parents' income or debts are. If they are in any debts that's outstanding, you need to be aware of those things and basically making sure that the bills are being paid. Next is you got to talk to your parents about insurances. Where's the life insurance policy? Who are the beneficiaries of those policies? And that sort of things. And where are those things kept? Is they kept in the safety deposit box, or they kept it in the bank, or is it kept in their residence? And where is the location of those things? And if there's a key, there's a locking key, or is it a combination? Those are the things that you need to know when you talk to your parents about that. Besides life insurance, is there a long-term care policy? One of the most expensive things that you can actually get involved is if your parent have to go into a long-term care facility or a assisted living facility. There could be the most expensive type of plans if you don't have in place that can be cost to the state. You need to be aware of what those things are. The bank accounts. You need to know where's the banking financial institution that they are involved in, whether the checking and savings, what the PIN numbers are. And when we come back, we can continue with the banking information. For right now, we're going to take a commercial break. And after the break, we can get back into talking about parents' finances. Hello, my soul brothers and soul sisters. We are back. We're talking about the talk, but this time we're talking about our parents' finances. And as I mentioned prior, is that basically once you become over 50 years old, your parents are at least 20 to 30 to 40 years older than you, and you need to have this conversation. And as I said before, you have to be smart about it. I mean, you have to be specific, you got to be measurable, it got to be achievable, it has to be relevant and time bound. And there has to be a designated person who your parents would actually listen to. Uh, you have to listen to the first half of this to really get into details on that. But you got to have together the information, which means that basically we talked about having the will part of the estate plan, which is the will of trust and understanding who are the beneficiaries, and if the person is incapacitated, do they need a trusted contact, which is the individual, the financial institution would contact if they can't contact the primary person, or do you need a person who would be designated as a power of attorney, who would make those financial business decisions and actually make sure the bills are paid and the debts are covered. And also, we're talking about insurances, which means that basically the power of attorney can also have a medical caveat to it, who will make the decisions on if the person is not incapacitated to make their own decision medically. One of the things that personally I had to do a do not resuscitate when my mom became ill and she was incapacitated. The emotionals of contacting the other siblings and making that decision, etc., it's very stressful, to say the least. So if you have a part of your estate plan, having those things in place, it would make everything easier. And we talk about making sure we talk about insurances, whether it's the life insurance policy, whether there's a long-term care policy in place, or if you need assisted living. One of the things that I personally experience is the assisted living is that basically there's a lot of details that you need to know prior to making that decision. And the bank accounts, if there's a checking, savings, making sure that there is another person who have the signature authority to, if that person is your parents are incapacitated, that you can actually have liquid assets to make sure that you can be paying for certain expense, which means that basically you're going to need to know the PIN numbers, or you need to be a part of that account. One of the things that I have, since I have experienced that personally, I'm trying to, educate some of my peers who are about to enter into that same situation. And that's really the genesis of this whole, the talk, not only that you need to make sure that, your estate planning is up to date, you need to ensure how your parents or anybody that's that that are seniors that in your span of influence have their estate plan in order. Now, there's other things that you need to consider. A friend of mine, wife passed, and she has her whole homegoing plan already printed out. She knew what songs. Well, first of all, she knew the funeral home. She knew she chose the casket. She knew the songs that she wanted to be, sung. She knew her favorite scripture and her favorite song, and she even designated the pastor who was going to do the eulogy. She had all this planned. Therefore, other than finding the pictures, everything else was laid out. I thought it was such a beautiful idea. I hadn't done mine yet because I think I got 40 more years to go. but it is a good idea to start having those things planned. And think about the charitable donations. Uh, Not only the legacy that you want to leave, the real estate plans that you want to leave for your family, and where the family home, or you have some other investment properties like in townhome homes or insurances. You might want to leave something for your church, or for a scholarship fund. I know several people have done both. They had left money for the church. They had left money for the NAACP / Urban League. They have left money for their HBCU institutions that we need also take a look at. And all those things has to be taken care of. The only way this talk will be successful is if you have your estate plan together. That's the only way that you can be able to convince, if you're going to be able to convince me, if I was your parent, is that then I know that basically you have earned or create money, that you understand how to manage your own money, that you knew how to leverage your own money, which means that basically you knew how to deal with the financial institutions, and basically that you had a long-term investment plan together, and basically that you knew how to have protection, that you had your family insured, that you had your property insured, that all those things were taken care of, and that you was leaving a legacy for your own children. That is the only way that they will feel comfortable about you telling them what they should be doing. So, in a nutshell, is that being specific is that basically you're telling your parents that we know that you have been independent all this time, and you've been taking care of your business, but we know that basically you might one day not be able to make those decisions. So we want to make sure that things are in place. So with that in mind, I'd like you to maybe send me a text or send me an email to skst@gmail.com to let me know some comments about what you think about this show, because it's very stressful when your parent is incapacitated to make those decisions. So until next time, I thank you for your time. It's precious. The only time your only thing you can do is spend it. I'm glad you spend it with me. Thank you very much.